Welcome back to another flight. Today I'm going to be going over iNAV settings that I changed and tuned to overcome a couple of issues I was having in my previous flights. And these are issues that have been going on for a while. I just never dug into what I needed to do to fix them. And the first one is noticing that when I fly in the angle mode, or this would be true for horizon as well, and my assumption is the difference between that and cruise or altitude hold I was correct about. With cruise and altitude hold, it is a more complex algorithm in iNAV. It uses GPS and it does kind of blending, but on the angle and horizon modes, it's really just using the PID loop. So here I'm showing an iNAV configurator, the tab for tuning. There's a sub tab that adjusts your overall trim, and that I had set to 4 degrees. I remember originally a year ago when I built this plane that after I did the manual tuning and whatnot, that I settled on 4 degrees up of pitch. That's kind of it's a weird place in the configurator, being a sub tab underneath the PID tuning tab. But essentially that got changed somehow to 8 degrees up, and that's what was causing all of my altitude gain in those modes. So anyway, the only way I can figure that happened is I did do an auto tune, so wouldn't have expected auto tune to change that because it's sort of a fixed setting, but apparently it did. So this flight here is after I fixed that. It was perfect. It totally fixed. When I'm in angle mode, it stays, the crosshatch and the artificial horizon are pretty much lined up, so satisfied with that. And coming into a landing, again, here is an iNAV. It's the tuning tab and the sub tab called mechanics, and at the very bottom it's for fixed wing. Yeah, and today I have a tailwind on my landing strip, so the next thing I do is go off to try to tackle when I'm in cruise mode. I find that I couldn't change the altitude, stick override basically. And there is a setting called FW manual climb rate, but it's kind of a misnomer in iNAV configurator. This is on the advanced tuning tab. On the far right column, all those have to do with when you're in cruise mode, loiter, altitude hold. And in there, I think it calls it max climb angle, and it's feet per second. So I was just showing those values, the very first value being the most important, which is your manual climb rate. Mine was set to 4 feet a second, and so I changed it to 10 feet a second, and then the next two values there that I had circled, those are the max climb angle and max dive angle. Those are in degrees. And initially they were set to 20 and 10, and in this flight I bumped them up to 30 and 20. And I don't think these two parameters have nearly as much impact as the first parameter, which is, if you look in the CLI, that command line interface in iNAV configurator, it's actually NAVFW manual climb rate. And in the configurator, it's called what's it called? It was called altitude hold max climb rate, but it's manual climb rate. So I think that's a bug in the way they're labeling that. But anyway, that being at 10 feet a second, and so yeah, I'm actually getting a response here. You can see I'm pushing down on the elevator now, and it's described in iNAV this way, that you're not going to get, it's not like being in manual or acro mode. When you push the stick, you're telling the flight controller to adjust altitude. It's like a suggestion. So if you want to keep going down in altitude, you actually have to hold the stick down, and that's what I was doing here. And I'm finding that I'm having to deflect that stick a lot, like really a lot. Like I'd say from center, it's like almost like 60% up or down from center to actually get iNAV to make that adjustment. So I may actually mess around with these even more. But I did find another parameter which is coming up, which is a command line parameter. It's a deadband parameter that I'll talk about as well. That helps. So basically I go back in thinking that yeah, there's the manual climb rate. I went up to 15 this time. I did go from the default is 4, and then I went up to 10, and now I went up to 15. And so I ended up bringing down those climb and dive angles because I don't think they were having that much effect, and I felt like it was affecting angle mode more than it was affecting cruise mode, and I already have good response there, so I dropped those back down to 25 and 15, and that's where I'm going to keep those. But increasing this manual climb rate to 15 definitely made a difference, but you still have to it sort of feels like a rubber band effect. You hold your elevator stick like down like 60%, and it kind of does that slow descent. Like it's not anything like if you were deflecting the elevator for that long, because you'd go right into the ground if you held your stick at 60% for that long. But that's kind of how it works. It's kind of like a bungee cord feel to it, and angle mode has that same feel, but the angle mode is way more responsive. It's closer to being like true stick deflection, although when you hold same thing, when you hold the stick, it's gonna bounce back as soon as you let go, let the stick center again. And here I'm just checking out some of the other navigation modes like loiter to make sure it wasn't affected negatively by that change to the manual climb rate, and it doesn't seem to have affected it. And it's, you know, holding, even with some wind here, it holds altitude pretty darn close, even in loiter. So I was pretty happy with all this. So then I decided, oh well, let me see if I could actually fly cruise mode up a ridge line. And so that's what I'm doing here. Holding up, this is a constant hold up on the elevator to basically tell the navigator on the flight controller to continue climbing in cruise mode. And this is really what I wanted earlier. I just wish it was still a little smoother than it is, because I feel like I have to deflect the stick too far. And so I do find one other parameter that kind of marginally helps with this. I don't think it makes as much difference as the manual climb rate does. And so here I'm going to come, this ridgeline kind of slopes down, so I'm going to just keep on flying here and push down and try to, you know, do the losing altitude, or its, you know, dive angle. I might go back and play more with the max climb angle and max dive angle some more, and put some more like extreme values in there to see if I can notice a difference, because I didn't really feel like I noticed a big difference in changing those initially. Like I initially changed them 10 degrees each, which is quite a bit, but didn't really feel like it made a big difference in the cruise mode. So yeah, I am descending down And one thing that's really cool, I'll point out, the cruise mode automatically adjusts throttle going down and up, and there's the little cabin up here on the ridge. Coming in for a landing to adjust that last parameter. Yeah, but in cruise mode, when you're pushing up and down altitude, it automatically adjusts the throttle for up and down. And there's a setting that I did not change. I think I have it set to 10 microseconds. When the throttle changes to adjust 10 microseconds, which is the RC pulse width. Now, here's the last parameter, altitude hold deadband. I found this in the CLI. And the default was 50, but it's microseconds. So that's not a lot of stick movement on your radio. That's RC pulse width of 50. So that shouldn't make a huge difference, but I dropped it down to 15. And I did feel like it made some difference. So when I'm in cruise, I didn't feel like I had to push the stick quite so hard up and down for it to start responding, but I can go down as low as 10, so I'll probably drop it down to 10. That's the lowest you can go. And I don't know what the rationale for having that at all is, other than maybe if it's like accidental bumping into the stick or something, but that's kind of crazy. Yeah, anyway, and checking out the other flight modes again to make sure they're not. See how much response there is on angle mode? Up and down with the elevator, you can just easily override. And now I've got it level on angle mode, so I'm happy with that change. That changes in the pitch angle trim on your head tuning. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps somebody that's trying to adjust the same thing, and if you're having a good day, thanks for watching.